Hi everybody, I'm going to illustrate a boomer dioramas lesson here. First of all, in the module that Luke made, the bridge abutments go right to the creek. I mean, the creek comes right up to them. In mine, because my bridge was so big, I didn't want to make my river that big. I really didn't want to do it. So I put my bridge abutments back, and this is real common. This is like a floodplain. The bridge abutments are not always right on the creek bank, not always in the water. And I can show you pictures of that. But when they do that, the railroad dumps big boulders or rocks. They call it riprap in there to help control erosion. So usually directly underneath the bridge, there's not a lot of vegetation unless it's like, a pretty steep bank and they can't keep it on there. So I've got some Woodland Scenics talus, medium and fine, and I've jumped on it and I've got it glued down now. It's drying right now. So of course I put rubbing alcohol on, and then I put the scenic cement. Well, Boomer Dioramas, if you followed his weathering of it, one of his things he really likes to do when he paints with the water-based paints is he blasts it with just rubbing alcohol with the airbrush. He just uses it and sort of blends everything together and gets some really cool effects. So that's what you're seeing right here. The rubbing alcohol is taking the paint, the water-based paint, off of the riverbed right here. So I've sort of soaked that up a little bit. So I'm going to have to go back and touch that up. Never thought about that. It's not that big a deal. A lot of people thought that the riverbed was too dark anyhow. So, this gives me a chance to sort of blend that back in a little bit. Now, I'm going to put some more talus in here. Basically, usually it went all the way down to the bank. You might see a little bit of bare dirt here and there. Of course, in my theory, the river is running this way. So some of it will probably wash downstream a little bit in floods. So you'll probably see some along the bank. I'll put some along there. But anyhow, again, I'm learning. This is the reason why we're doing this is to learn from the masters. Boomer and Luke are the masters, and I'm trying to emulate them, and I'm learning as I go. Next thing I'm going to do is my wife and I. She helped me. We put some. I don't know if you can see this. I'll put it down here. These are actual leaves. The leaves that I showed you, I had drying for a week. Put them in a blender. And then she actually has a spice grinder. So we put them in that, and then I used her little sieve or splatter guard to sift it out. So I'm going to take some of this, and I'm going to sprinkle it on around underneath the trees, everything. So the bare dirt is still going to show some, but this is going to cover most of it. And then the leftover stuff from the screening, I'll just set that there for now. The leftover stuff, which is, pretty coarse, I'll sprinkle a little bit of that on. What I'm really thinking, I've got some stuff in here that I can maybe use for like this tree would probably have roots coming out into the creek. And so I'm going to have a couple of roots out into the creek here, and I'll glue them down, and then when I pour the water, it looks like, you can see the roots along the bank there that have been exposed by flooding and stuff. So I'll use some of that stuff on the bank to represent, fine roots. And I'll probably try to find a twig or something to represent a dry or a dead tree or something on there to add a little bit of interest. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm going to put the leaves down and glue those down. I'll show you what that looks like. So even though I know I'm going to have to go in and touch up here and there with the airbrush, I went ahead and masked off the riverbed with some wax paper. After I sprinkled on the ground up leaves, and then the pieces of ground up leaves. I'll try to get this out of the shade and maybe get it where you can see it a little bit better. Excuse me while I move the camera a little bit. I don't know if I can zoom in any better. Okay. Here and there, I bought this So it's called flowering foliage from Woodland Scenics. And I thought it was just like a yellow ground foliage, but really it's like a you have to peel it apart. It's like in the strings. So I put some what look like little wildflowers along here just for a touch of color. A little bit. I don't know if how well that shows up. You can see it on the bank here, a little touch of color there. Put some little shrubs along the embankment here, and I'll probably put a few more of those here and there just to break it up a little bit. So at this point I just need to let it dry for a little bit, because after I touch up the, well, I have to put some more talus in, dry that, and then I'll have to touch up the riverbank or the riverbed. Then it's time to pour the river. And after pouring the river, of course, I have to put the bridge in and ballast it, and I'll be done. I am going to put some little twigs on the bank, like I said, but I'll wait and do that after I airbrush the river. I'll just, like where these trees might have roots coming out, I have some roots coming out into the river for a little bit of detail. That's where I'm at. Fairly happy with it. Again, I'm not the master at this, but it's turning out okay. Okay, so this is where I'm at right now. I've added some more talus that's still drying. I've touched up the riverbed. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got some stuff in here. Got a little bit of scenic cement on it. Hopefully it won't just disappear. It's supposed to represent fine roots from those trees. I've got a couple of twigs in there. I sort of glued them like they might have been off the same tree, something. I got to think about this later. What would have really been cool? Couldn't do it with this bridge, but if I'd had two short bridges and had a center pylon, you know how like all the stuff always piles up against the pylon. They always have the brush pile upstream. Well, that'd be kind of cool. So, but can't do it now. So I've got the tape in, which is my dam. Luke suggested that he trims the tape and then he takes some wood glue and goes around like this to seal it. So in the morning, I'm going to vacuum everything real good to make sure everything is, all the loose stuff is gone. I'm going to make sure that it's sitting level. I'll put a level on this stand that it's on, and then I'm going to pour the water. So that's where I'm at, what I've done today. I'm probably going to go in and do some more switching now. When you have something like this, you're tempted to just keep on adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff, and I'm just ready to let it go. To be honest with you, ready to see how it comes out. So everybody stay safe. Okay, it's Sunday morning. I'm going to get ready to pour the water. I'm using the Woodland Scenics deep pour water. My original thinking was to use this to cover it up with. However, after reading the directions, they said this generates heat, and they suggested aluminum foil to sort of like make a dome. So I'm going to try to do something like that rather than this, because I'm afraid this is going to be too close to the surface, and I'm worried that it might ruin it. I did clean up around the floor around it. I vacuumed it really good, the module itself. Basically, when you get done pouring it, you want to not have any dust fall on it. So after I get done, I'm going to cover it up and leave, and not intend to come back from the garage all day if I can help it. If I do, I won't approach this. It'll just be to the workbench. So I'll show you the cover I'm going to make for it, and then I'm going to get ready to pour. So I'm a big fan of the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. So I've stuck a couple nails in here, and I may have to sort of patch, the holes, but should be pretty easy to do that. And my wife had some 18-inch wide aluminum foil, so I'm just going to do that when I'm done, and then leave it. So I think that'll be pretty simple. Again, if I don't open the garage door, the foil shouldn't blow off, but the garage door is staying closed today. Okay, so I've stirred it for 5 minutes. I'm using the full amount. I tried putting some of this Tamiya olive green, which they use to tint on the Envirotex. I put 2 drops in because I didn't want to overdo it. It doesn't seem to be really, it's not like mainly it's hanging around up the top. I'm trying to stir it down toward the bottom, but I can see a little bit of it. I'll see if I can pan around. They say to reduce the chance of, see if I can get over here. Alright, there it is in the cup. To reduce the chance of forming a film, it said after you stir it for 5 minutes, to cover it for 5 minutes. So I've got a timer running. After the timer goes off, I will go ahead and stir for 5 more minutes. And it's very slow stirring. So again, you can read the directions, so I'm not going to I don't think I need to really show you step by step. So I'm going to put the camera back over to where it's showing, because after I stir it for 5 minutes again, I'm going to pour it. Okay, here goes nothing. It just says to pour it and let it spread out on its own. I got this workbench as level as I could. It looks like it's flowing both ways, which is good. The Woodland Scenics directions don't say a word about what happens if you have bubbles. Like Luke talked about in the Envirotex, you can blow with the straw, but nothing in Woodland Scenics talks about that. And right now, I'm not seeing a whole lot. And it's pretty level. It's close to the top of my dam down there, but it's not overflowing yet. All right. So that's the point of no return. So I'm going to cover it with this and leave it alone, and hope that when I come back to look at it later, it's not disaster. Here we go.